we're in the session configuration right now, okay? We don't want to come out of there. We just want to stay right here in session. And we're going to change this to raw, and we're going to click on serial, okay? Now, that defaults to COM1 at a speed of 9600 baud. That's typical, but we don't know which COM port this USB adapter has taken. So in order to check that, we have to check Device Manager in Windows, okay? So just go to Windows, you're taking Device Manager. And right here where it says COM ports, okay? Expand that. And you can see USB serial device is on COM9. So that is what we're going to use for that setting in PuTTY. Change COM1 to COM9. Speed 9600, connection type serial, and it's a raw connection, okay? And we're going to hit open. And ta-da, just like Packet Tracer, we've got a console into the router, except it's for real this time, not pretend, right? It's not simulated. So I'm just going to issue an enable here, and do show run. And this will show the running configuration that I configured over the weekend, okay? So there's nothing really all that interesting at this part, yet more. All right, you can see I've configured IP name server 8.8.8.8, IP name server 8.8.4.4. These are Google DNS servers. So 8.8.8.8 is Google's primary DNS server, and 8.8.4.4 is Google's secondary DNS server. We're going to be borrowing their DNS, meaning that whenever we need to resolve a domain name, if we look up google.com, it's going to go to that IP, get the DNS information, and send it back to our computer, okay? Without that configured, things will only ping. You won't be able to actually reach websites and stuff, okay, by their domain name. So we've got that configured, and that's called DNS forwarding. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to configure this. And you'll notice we've got interface G00. Its IP address to 192.168.2.2 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0, which is Class C or /24 network with 254 hosts. I've issued IPNAT outside, okay? If I don't issue that IPNAT outside command on the Cisco router, even if routing works, you won't be able to reach anything. Okay, so what's happening there is we're using network address translation to take our internal IP addresses, and so our internal IP addresses are basically aliases, okay? And our actual public IP address, the one that the rest of the world sees, we have to translate our internal IPs to that public IP for routing to actually work. So we could have all the routes set up on the network, everything could be working fine, but nothing will work unless we configure that, okay? So we've got, this is going into the WAN. So that is G00, that is directly connected to the WatchGuard, and the WatchGuard is connected to the class network, okay? Because that is the WAN interface, so to speak, it has to be IPNAT outside. And then any of the private interfaces, the private IPs on them, are IPNAT inside. So what we're doing is we're behind the NAT, right? So if we try to route 192.168, it's not going to work because those IPs are not routable. So we have to tell the router, take this 192.168 address and transform it into our actual public IP address when we go outbound past the WAN. Okay, so that's how that works. And then G01 is IPNAT inside. that is going down to the switch. That's our trunk port, okay? Down to the switch. And then you can see I've got some sub interfaces here. I put them on dot 30 and dot 40, and that's just, I didn't use VLAN 10, VLAN 20. I used VLAN 30 and VLAN 40 for less confusion so that it matches the IP address scheme, right? So we've got 192.168.3 network and then 192.168.4 network. And then also, there's some other stuff issued here that's interesting. You'll see IP NAT inside source list, NAT ACL interface gigabit Ethernet 00 overload. That's part of the NAT configuration that has to be implemented as well. And you have to create an IP access list that permits. So it's kind of like an internal firewall, all right? Access lists work like a firewall. So I'm telling it, permit 192.3 network, 192.168.3 network, any address, okay? And the 192.168.4 network, any address, permit that to be NATed, okay? So we're allowing that. It's just like a firewall setting. And then that's it. So that's the router configuration. And the way I actually went ahead and did that, well, while we're here, let's actually just test. Can I ping, right? So I'm going to ping 192.168.1.1, which is the watch guard. And we're not having much luck with that, are we? Why is that? Well, that would be because I don't have it plugged in. Forgot to cable it up. All right, so we're going to put that on interface G00, and I have to move this to here, this to here. So I was managing it off the first port with my laptop, and now I'm managing it off the second port of the WatchGuard, okay? So I might have to reconnect to the WatchGuard software, because I just pulled the plug on and plugged this router. So the way it looks now is we've got the line coming in from back there to here. That's going to port 0, the network port of the WatchGuard. Port 1 is going into the Cisco router. And then I'm managing the WatchGuard from port 2 on the WatchGuard. Eventually, once I get the switch involved, I'm going to unplug the WatchGuard, the laptop from the WatchGuard entirely, and I'll plug it to the switch, right? So in order to do that, we've got to get the switch involved. Now let me try ping. Let's see what happens next. Okay, something is off with my cabling. So I'm going to go back and we're going to follow the directions exactly to make sure I've got everything, cables in their spots, okay? This is why you document everything. I literally did this yesterday and now I'm going back and I'm having trouble getting out, okay? So let's just move to a different subject for a quick second because we have to figure out which of these switches is configured and which one isn't. And I'm going to show you how to factory reset and HP switch, okay? How's everyone doing? Are you following along, or is this confusing? Good. Anyone confused? So? Yeah, I know, it's a tricky subject. So in order to administrate the HP switch, we're going to use a different kind of cable setup. Okay, that's loud, so I think that's the one I configured. Because it had like crazy loud fan noises. Can you guys see this light show? It's like they're putting on a whole show here. That's an HP thing. They like to have lots of blinking lights, okay? Especially when you first turn them on. Yeah, look, now it's blinking. It's checking all the ports. It's testing all the ports, okay? But it looks like some sort of Christmas light show. So what we've got here is we've got the blue wire is an RS-232 Cisco rollover cable, and it is specifically for using a shell like putty and being able to access through console to administrate the router or switch, okay? So any Cisco here, it's older, it has this kind of connection here. It looks like a VGA cable on the end, but it's not. It's got a different number of pins. But it does look like a VGA cable, right? On this end, you've got an Ethernet jack. So on older Cisco gear, like my old switch, which is in the back there, you can just plug this directly in without the adapter. The adapter is for newer stuff that uses USB. All right? So you take the RS-232 end, you plug it into the RS-232 end with the adapter, and you've got USB here. These adapter cables are all in these little drawers here. Several adapters, there's little mini USB cables in here. And then the roller cables are on top of the switch.
Ui, giờ đem MacBook tới non lắm.
So the console port, oh, by the way, I should mention this, especially when you're working with these Cisco routers. See how there's tape right here? There's a reason there's tape. One of the students took a regular Ethernet cable and plugged it into the console port, which is RJ45, right? It looks exactly the same like the Ethernet port. So it's an easy mistake to make. I know technicians that have done this. They're just not paying attention to what they're doing. So they took a regular cable, like one of these blue cables, right? And they plugged it into that, and they plugged it into the switch, which the switch has power over Ethernet. So the power went down the Ethernet cable into the console port and fried the port, okay? So be very careful of that, especially when you're on your job, right? If you're out there working on stuff, you do not want to accidentally fry your customer stuff. So that's why from here on, we're just going to use the mini USB cables to access the Cisco routers, okay? The console port on the front of the switch is right here, in the corner, okay? Plug it into the console port, bring the USB cable around. All right, and I've got that plugged into my laptop now. So then I'm going to check device manager again, right? To see which port did that end up on. So in Windows, you go to device manager. Go to ports. And I can see I've got this prolific USB to serial COM port adapter, and it's on COM 7. So I can open up another instance of PuTTY. And I'm going to change this from Telnet to raw. I'm going to select serial. And it was on COM 7, right? Did you say COM 7? I can't remember. COM 7. Change that setting. Hit open. All right, so now I'm on the HP switch. Okay, so I've got one cable going to the HP switch, one cable going to the Cisco router. This one's the router, that one's the switch, okay? I'm going to issue enable. So the commands are very similar to Cisco, a lot of them are identical. I'm going to do show run. And the first thing comes up is I've got default VLAN untag 1 to 52. And that's it. So this is not the router or the switch that I configured, okay? This is the unconfigured switch. And that's fine. So I'm just going to pull, and it's not passworded, so I don't have to factory reset it. 10.1.1.4. Before I do factory reset it, I'm just going to pull a plug on it. I'm going to put this one over here for now. And show you the one that I configured, okay? Okay, the fans are even louder. So that hopefully is the right one here. So what I tend to do is I tend to configure this stuff on a bench and then put it in the rack. All right? I just find it easier to work on. Okay, I know what happened. So the switch has a bad CMOS battery. So when I took power off it to bring it from my house to here, I don't know, because I just got these, right? I paid like 20 bucks each for them. This is why I'm showing you this. You guys need to invest in your own gear. These are so cheap, all right? When this was new, this was about $3 grand. But the CMOS battery's dead, so it doesn't remember the settings that I configured. It doesn't matter, we're going to redo them all anyway. I just wanted to show you, all right? So this one here is passworded. And so that resides in a different part of memory, obviously, because that was passworded also, and I had to factory reset it. So that's great. It gives me an opportunity to show you how to do that. And anytime you go out and you buy used gear for your own lab, like I said, sometimes it's a bit of a gamble, right? It's you're buying it as is. I tend to be luckier than unlucky. I've only had a couple things come back where I couldn't get them up and running. So far so good. So what I've got, these aren't advils, these are push pins, okay? And you have to use two of them at the same time. Prop this up like that. Now, right here, there's two little tiny buttons. If you guys want to come and look. There's one that says clear and one that says reset. Just hold it in. Clear reset. Okay. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the pin in here first. I'm going to kind of feel around with the button. So, I had it. Remember that game Operation? You have to reach down and get the bones out of the body, get that goes off. A bit like that, okay? Okay, got it. So you'll feel the button go down, otherwise you don't feel anything. So then hold that down and then you can reset one and the lights will all come on. Somebody else has done before.
No, I know, that's kind of what I'm saying.
The reset button is way down in there. Somebody's pushed too hard before. Okay, so the reset on that is broken. So that's a problem because then this is a brick basically. Oh well, $20. I'll do this one.
प्रकाश चेक कर भाजी
There. You see how the fan's picked up and then the lights come straight on? So you just hold it there like that for about a minute. And it's clearing all the flash memory, right? So the next thing you do is you remove your pin out of the reset,
Okay.
but you leave the pin for clear
And
again.
it's gonna restart open it like again.
And it's kicked down. Blinking lights. Yeah, okay, so they just all blinked. Good to go. Now it's just you're off of it, and it's gonna power cycle. Maybe I should. We go through this whole self-test again, so the lights come on, they're gonna go. Okay. And up here in putty, that should update. All right, and it's cleared the password, okay? So we're good to go now. Now also, it's also dumped my running configuration, but actually that was dumped anyway because it's got a bad CMOS battery. Keeping equipment around with a bad battery can be helpful actually. You saw how irritating it is to factory reset, right? This is why when we're working on the equipment back there, the Cisco ones are even more annoying to reset. Okay, there's a whole process. You have to go to like the configuration registry and change some numbers, and it's like you got to boot it like 2-3 times. Very annoying, tedious, annoying thing to do. So we're not going to ever write, the command write. We're never going to issue write on there, okay? And we're also never going to change the password with the enable secret command on any of the equipment back there. As long as we don't do that, these things happen, okay? Because it's upsetting. It's very annoying to have to come in and do that all the time. So let's check out this watch guard. All right, see what happens with this. See, I'm only one short, okay? Wait, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 2 short. I've got another one, but I have to use it at home. So I'm only 2 routers short of actually being able to throw these in the racks back there and making it part of the class. So I might actually just, they're cheap, they're $50 each, right? So I might actually just order a couple more and we'll rack them and let you guys work on this stuff. These WatchGuard firewalls are a dream to work on, okay? Like compared to like Sophos or FortiGate, it does everything that those do, but it's so much easier to use, okay? So, one of your jobs as a technician is your customers will say, hey, we need a new firewall, or it's your job to find out, hey, your firewall's expired. You gotta buy new equipment. Oh, well, what do you think we should get? They have a great track record, right? They're just really, it's great equipment. And these are small, so this is meant for a really small office, like it's only 1 gigabit per second, right? So I had a class of 30 students just pounding this with remote desktop sessions, which is all graphics and everything, right? So we had this thing hitting like 2 gigs per second or more, like slightly over. And the latency in the classroom is brutal, right? So I figured it out, I'm like, hey, okay, so I've got 2 of these, I'll set up 2 antennas, right? and have half the class log into one and half the class log into the other, because the server handled it fine. It wasn't maxing out at all, but the bottleneck. So we call that a bottleneck, okay? When you've got a great big pipe where everything's going great, and all of a sudden you run into a piece of equipment where it's like not wide enough and there's not enough to carry all the bandwidth that's coming in, right? So we want to avoid bottlenecks, and one of our jobs as a technician is to see where the bottlenecks are and then make corrections accordingly, right? Okay, so let's see what happens. This one's got Wi-Fi on it too, so we'll probably use this as part of the lab. Just going to take this off here for now. Put this on here. Okay, and then I'm going to take this. Okay. Now we'll see, once again, it's the same process over again, right? I don't know where this thing came from. I don't know how it was addressed. I literally had it delivered to my house yesterday. Okay, so let's see, cross your fingers, right? Issue IP config. Okay, there's the school network. Got an APIPA address. So when you see this 169 address, that's a Microsoft APIPA address. If you see that, that means you don't have network connectivity there, right? So that's probably a bad thing. This, I don't know if that's statically set or what. I'm not sure where that's coming from. Well, that's not looking too promising. I'm gonna try another port here, okay? Aha. Oh no. Thought I fell for that 56.1 address again. Still nothing. So last network port.
I'll make myself.
So that tells me that whoever had this before might have used it for one of two reasons, okay? Either the ports, well, it's a wireless router. So we might be able to get onto the wireless. Also, they may not have opened up the ports in the back at all. And network ports might have all been closed except for the WAN port. There is a console port that we could always try as a last ditch, but I'm going to see if this thing's advertising for Wi-Fi. know, we might be out of luck, guys. I might have spent 50 bucks for nothing here. Sometimes the gamble doesn't pay, okay? So that's too bad, but it is what it is. There is another way to do it if you have access. So let's say I could potentially save this if I bring it home and I plug it directly into my DOCSIS router from the cable company. Because in that case, I have access to the router and I can see unknown devices that are on the network, right? And if it assigns the router an IP address, then I know the management IP. And I can go into the WAN link, which is port 0. All right? I'll try that when I get home. It might save the day. But as far as doing anything with this in class, it's not going to work. For now. All right, what time is it? You got half an hour left? All right, let's make the best use of this half an hour, okay? So the next time, when's the next time you guys are in? Thursday? Okay. So when you come in on Thursday, I won't have to re-demonstrate all of this. Does anybody have any questions about like this topology and what we're actually doing here? Everybody understands pretty good what the goal is? Okay. How confident do you feel about you guys doing this? Probably not too confident, right? That's okay. I'm the teacher. I'm not confident.